And so do you want to bring everybody up to date just to begin with, or remind them or educate them about what Bill C-16 was and what the fears were at the time and whether or not those have been realized?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Jordan. Well, C-16 is when you and I met. And you were concerned, as I was and as others were, not very many others, mind you, but a few others, concerned that these proposed amendments to the Canadian Human Rights Act, the inclusion of gender identity and gender expression, would have an effect upon speech, essentially to require people to use the preferred pronouns of other people. And frankly, the establishment types poo-pooed the idea and called us fearmongers. And of course, that's turned out to be entirely untrue. You were exactly right in your concerns. That kind of amendment had been made before in provincial human rights codes, but this was the federal version. But that's in there now, and we have all kinds of pronoun trouble. But the present bill that you referred to, C63, is C16 on steroids. It's got 3 categories of bad in it. One's an administrative bad, one is a criminal code bad, criminal law bad, and the other one is, again, like C16, a Canadian Human Rights Act amendment. So let me do the last one first.
And so what's the purported purpose of the law?
Well, the purported purpose, it starts with the cover of protecting children.
Right.
From online harm. That's the first administrative law.
And who could possibly oppose that?
This is part of the beauty of the way they go about these things. It's got great cover, and nobody in their right mind would want to come out and say, well, that's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But what that kind of cover enables is basically a crackdown on the very idea of free speech. So let's just take the human rights aspect first. They are returning to the Canadian Human Rights Act, an old section that got thrown out, got repealed during the era of Stephen Harper, when Harper was the Prime Minister. And it was causing all kinds of nuisance. It was the kind of section, and these kinds of sections also appear in the provincial codes. Every province and the federal government has their own human rights code. And these codes, not all of them, but typically include this kind of restriction on speech. You're not allowed to discriminate in your speech, is what some of them say. And this section basically says that if you use hateful speech that can be taken to vilify an individual or group, then you will be acting discriminatorily and therefore in breach of the code and therefore potentially liable to any of the perceived victims and also potentially to the government itself. And one of the problems with the human rights regime is that complaints can be made very, very easily without a lawyer, without any cost. And because the Canadian federal government has jurisdiction over the internet, this section is going to authorize complaints of all kinds to be made against people who are speaking their minds online about any and everything. So it's going to have a chilling effect upon speech, no question about it. You put that together with the criminal code amendments. Those criminal code amendments make it, well, they do several things. Here's one extraordinary thing that it does. It makes the sentence, the maximum sentence for any violation of an offense, like any offense in the criminal code or under federal legislation, any offense that is motivated by hatred will carry a maximum sentence of life imprisonment.
Right.
Now, the defenders of the bill say, well, don't worry, the judge isn't actually going to give you life. That's not likely to happen. And that may be true, but that's not the point. If you don't mean it in legislation, then don't give the judge the power.
If it's in the law, it's likely to happen.
If it's in the law, it is going to happen sooner or later, and it is a signal about what is lawful and what is not, and what the proper punishment should be and what is not. So C63 is a reflection of how, just one more reflection of how we are losing the law. We are losing in C63 the idea of free speech itself. You know that old quote that people always refer to from Voltaire's biographer, the one that goes, "I disagree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say." I think the reason that that quote is trotted out so often is that when you come right down to it, most people don't agree with that. Everybody says they believe in free speech. Everybody. Justin Trudeau has said he believes in free speech. There's a guarantee of free speech in the Chinese constitution.
Right.
It's very easy to say. And what they really mean is, yes, I believe in free speech, but.
Yeah.
And it's within the but where you can find out whether or not they really do believe in free speech. So for my money, we shouldn't have a law that prohibits hate speech.
Yeah.
Hate speech is ugly, but people hate each other. And if they're not allowed to say that they do, well, then their speech is not free. So
It's also a very difficult and challenging thing to make an emotion illegal. So
no doubt. And of course, the definition of what they mean by hate speech
we'll get to that.
It's impossible to tell. And it's going to be under the purview of the judge to decide in any particular case whether or not you've crossed that threshold.